Hi guys, this is Sarah Williams, CEO of Midnight Greenery here. Today, it's been a little while since our last video, but today we're going to cover Article 4, Marijuana Cultivation Facilities. So this is Article 4 of Chapter 306, Regulations for the Proposed Marijuana Industry. This is a proposed regulation, so this is what the MCB has created and sent out. This is by far not written in stone. This is definitely amendable and changeable. And so we're going to cover that. So due to the size of the article, and due to the size of Article 4, 5, and 6, we're really just going to cover some of the controversial kinds of topics, some of the things that really I believe should be changed to make sure that the industry is profitable. Now, I'll be the first to say that I don't think the industry is going to come out all perfect rainbows and roses. It's not going to happen. It's going to come out good enough. And my vision and my mission is to work towards good enough so that by February 2017, the voters will realize that this industry is going to work. It's going to be worth investing in and spending some time and energy into. And with that, then we will be able to survive the repeal issue of February 2017. So, all right, so getting started. We start on page 1 of Article 4. If you are following along, the link is in the comments, in the description, so you'll be able to follow along and see where we're at. One of the things I've done that's worked really well for me is I simply print them all out. I read them, I highlight them. I'm not as much a digital person as I could be, so it really helps me to have them in front of me and look through them. So we look at section 400 through 480. So starting on page 1 there, it simply talks about marijuana cultivation facility license required. So there's going to be 3 separate types of licenses that they're going to suggest. The first one is going to be the standard cultivation license, and this is going to be any cultivation facility that is over 500 square feet under cultivation. So under canopy, anything over 500 feet is going to be considered or 500 square feet is going to be considered a standard cultivation facility. Right? So the second one, which we believe is going to be a pretty predominant one here in the state, especially without allowing for outside investment, we're not going to have a lot of big box store situations. So we're going to have a lot of people that might grow as a home grow or in their garage or whatnot. And so this limited license cultivation facility or limited marijuana cultivation facility license is going to be one that is issued to a person operating a marijuana cultivation facility with a 500 or fewer square feet under cultivation. So this is under canopy. This is not just your pot itself. It's under canopy. So you got to keep some of those things in mind with regards to how big and how bushy the particular plants that you're going to be growing are going to fit. But the license for this is only $1,000 plus the application fee. So for individuals that want to grow at their home, or in a smaller location, they can definitely do it. They will have to use the next license, however, that's covered under this, which is a marijuana cultivation broker facility license. The limited cultivation license will have to use a broker to be able to get to the retail market. So the purpose of the broker is to serve the business functions of the limited license cultivation. So to pay the taxes, to arrange for testing, to handle any reporting that's needed, to really be that business function. So to move that product from the limited cultivation license to the storefronts, to the retail market. So as a storefront, it's going to be imperative that I work with a broker who can connect to those limited grows. It's the first of its kind. It's a kind it's a license that's never existed in any of the previous states. It is the way to hopefully get that black market per se to the white. It's the way of creating a middleman, if you will. And it's a new license. And so how it will work, we'll see. We'll see whether or not it's a beneficial thing for that. All right, so that broker license is, I believe the fee for that is going to be $5,000 for the broker license. And the broker license cannot grow. That's one of the important things about the broker license, is that they are not allowed to be able to grow marijuana in that. All right, so then we keep moving on. That was page 2. Page 3 indicates that you, as a cultivation license holder, as a standard cultivation license holder, cannot have a direct or indirect interest in a testing facility. for that. So that's number one. So as a marijuana cultivation license holder, you are not allowed to, or a product manufacturing facility, you're not allowed to have a direct or indirect financial interest or ownership interest in a licensed marijuana testing facility. All right, so that moves on to breaking down. So standard marijuana cultivation facility license. It breaks down that you propagate, cultivate, harvest, prepare, cure, package, store, and label marijuana. You sell only to a product manufacturing facility or another cultivation facility. You are not allowed to sell directly to the consumer. You can provide samples to the retailer, samples for testing, small samples. However, there's a little bit of confusion as to what samples what, so we'll get into that. But it does allow you the opportunity to be fully integrated. So you can own a cultivation facility, a production facility, and a retail facility. So in true seed to sale concept for that. So that's a good thing in my opinion. However, of course, they have to be separated. So there needs to be a very clear delineated license premise. If you're going to have a cultivation facility and a production facility in the same building, you need to have a very clear, separated with a secured door license premise for that. All right, so let me move on. Under page 4, it covers a licensed standard cultivation facility may not. 1. Sell, distribute to a consumer with or without compensation. So even for free, you cannot give away to a consumer. Number 2 is a problem. Number 2, I fully believe needs to be changed. Number 2 says allow any person, including a licensee, employee, or agent, to consume marijuana or a marijuana product on the licensed premise or within 20 feet of the exterior of any building or outdoor cultivation facility on the licensed premise. So, how do you test your product? I don't mean taking it to a facility and testing it, but how do you test it? How do you go, gosh, I wonder how that Ghost Train Haze was. I wonder how that blueberry's going to smoke. You need to know so you can tell your retailer or your broker how it's going to smoke. But what do you can't test it on site or within 20 feet? So do you have to have like a special gazebo that's your testing gazebo that's 25 feet from the exterior? Or do you have to go smoke in your car or at home to test your product? That just doesn't make sense. It's not business savvy. So that really has to change and be taken out of there. Another important part, number 3 there, you cannot treat or otherwise adulterate with any organic or non-organic chemical or compound to alter the color, appearance, weight, or smell. This is extremely important. We have been hearing stories about individuals that have been shipping in dirt weed from California that literally has been sprayed with something to smell like a blueberry or a peach or a pineapple. It's been sprayed. It's not organic. It's an attempt to better the sale because it smells like pineapple. That's a problem. So I really agree with this one in this case. Don't adulterate it. It's beautiful just the way it is for that. All right. We move on to the limited marijuana cultivation facility license, section 306.410 there on page 4. Once again, may propagate, cultivate with less than 500 square feet under cultivation. You may provide marijuana samples to a broker facility to negotiate a sale. Of course, you can only sell to a broker facility. And let's see what else. Oh, another important part here, B, a limited or license, this is page 5, a licensed limited marijuana cultivation facility may not, 2, hold any other type of marijuana establishment license. So if you're going to grow at home, you can't have a retailer license, you can't have a testing facility license, you can't have a product manufacturing license. You are limited cultivation license and that's it. That's all you do for that. Again, limited cultivation cannot sell directly to the consumer. And the limited cultivation license also counts on the broker to pay taxes for them. Now, one of the things that, we'll discuss it when we get to that point, I guess. Page 6, then we move on. Marijuana cultivation broker license is what's covered here. This one states that a limited license marijuana cultivation facility may only sell to a broker, and that's it. But the broker can then sell it to a the broker can deal with a limited cultivation license. They can then sell to a production facility or a retail facility for that, but they can't sell back to another cultivation facility. The broker arranges laboratory testing, they arrange transportation, they submit to the Department of Revenue the monthly statements and pays the excise tax. A broker facility, though, may apply for a marijuana product manufacturing facility license and a retail store license. So a broker can hold a product or a retail, but they cannot hold a testing or a cultivation license for that. Okay. It goes on to the prohibited acts. Once again, brokers cannot grow for that. They cannot extract concentrate unless they've obtained a product manufacturing facility license. They may not sell marijuana that's not packaged and labeled in compliance. And they must not sell marijuana that has not been reported to the Department of Revenue with excise tax as paid as required. This is the first time I'm going to mention this. It's a propagated theme all throughout Articles 4, 5, and 6, or Articles 4 and 5 at least, particularly. And even through 3, is that this excise tax, they fully expect you that before you sell the product to a retail facility or to a production facility or whatever, if you're a cultivation facility, you have to pay your excise tax before you sell it. So typically, you sell something, you make money, then you pay a tax, right? But in this case, they want you to pay your tax in advance of selling the product. And that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Not to mention how I feel this will happen is that there's going to be an ancillary business of loan sharks that'll be created. Individuals that are going to be scalping you at the tax office that are going to say, hey, I understand that you've got cash flow issues, so let me go ahead and loan you the money to pay your taxes, but when you sell your product, I'm going to take a nice fee off the top. And I fully expect that to be the case if this happens. If this is a situation where people have to pay the tax before they can sell the product, what if they can't sell the product? They've just paid tax on something that they didn't actually sell? It doesn't make sense. It must change, in my opinion. All right, so then Section 306.420 goes into the application for marijuana cultivation license. That's a little bit of irony there, I suppose. Goes into the application needing to include the size of the space intended to be under cultivation, the growing medium, fertilizers, chemicals, gases, and delivery systems, including CO2 management, irrigation and wastewater systems to be used, waste disposal arrangements, odor control, and testing procedure and protocols that the marijuana control facility will follow. So that will have to be included in the operations plan that's submitted at the initial application process. Now, a lot of this is going to be difficult for individuals that really want a limited license cultivation facility. Maybe they've done a home grow for years and they just want to start moving it into the retail market. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be just let me fill out a piece of paper. It's going to be a lot of pre-thinking, a lot of thinking in advance about what you're going to have to submit and what you're going to have to be aware of. Things like having a security camera to cover things like that are going to be important for that. One of the things that we hope to do is to start creating templates for limited license cultivation facilities to be able to simply take that template and fill in their details for their operation plan to make sure that things work. And so that a lot of that, our goal is really to bring as many individuals who want to be legal to the market with all of us in that, so that we can really make this something good for the consumer when it comes right down to it. All right, so then we go on to page 8, just really covers the rest of the application process, covers health and safety requirements, things like good sanitation habits, make sure you dress appropriately, wear appropriate clothing and protective apparel, etc. Page 9 goes on to the marijuana handler permit required. We've talked about this before in Article 3, Article 7. It talks about the marijuana handler permit being something that employees, licensees, agents, people will need to have. They'll need to know how to handle marijuana, right? According to the state and how the state thinks that these things should be done. So then we go into 306.435 at the bottom of page 9, restricted access area. really says that a licensed marijuana cultivation facility shall conduct any marijuana growing operation within a fully enclosed, secure, indoor facility or greenhouse with rigid walls, a roof, and doors. No outdoor grows. Is that what that says? That's a thought. That could be a problem, that you can't have an outdoor grow. What if you're in the middle of nowhere? What if you're up in my favorite place, Anderson, Alaska, and you're back, I don't know, 2 miles off of the road, the only driveway to your place is yours, and no public is allowed back there. Maybe there's even a gate, and you can't have an outdoor grow facility? Not sure that's cool. That doesn't really represent Fairbanks and the interior and places that could have outdoor grow facilities. So, something to think about, maybe for public comment. Moving on to page 10, goes a little bit more into that it cannot be observed by the public from the outside of the cultivation facility, does not emit an odor that is detectable by the public from outside the cultivation facility. That one's going to be vague. That one's really vague. That one I feel like might need a little more definition, but I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what that might need to be defined as, because an odor detectable by the public, I have no sense of smell unless it's right in front of my face. However, my husband has a very solid sense of smell. He really can smell everything. So if the odor is detected by the public, how much of the public? Really sensitive noses or semi-sensitive noses? What's the point here? If coffee roasteries can be smelled for blocks, what's the difference? Is cannabis smell really offensive? I don't know. Is the smell gonna get you high? No. So what's the deal here? What's the real reason behind we're so scared of cannabis facility smell for that? All right, a marijuana cultivation facility shall have full video surveillance, including any area tracking where marijuana is grown, processed, packaged, or stored, or where marijuana waste is destroyed for that. All right, so then it moves into 306-440, marijuana inventory tracking system. This particular states, when harvested bud and flowers, clones or cuttings, but it also specifically discusses clones or cuttings down in the next line, but clones or cuttings or leaves and trims may be combined in batches of distinct strains not exceeding 5 pounds. So they're planning on a 5-pound batch. In Washington, it's a 10-pound batch. A 5-pound batch means more money for testing facilities, which, in my opinion, I think is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, testing facilities is because we don't have the population here that they do in Denver or that they do in Washington, that testing facilities will need some additional income to be able to stay open, especially with some of the requirements that they have. So 5-pound batches is what they'll be looking at, and clones or cuttings are limited to batches of up to 50 plants and identified by a batch tracking number. So this gives some idea about how to manage the inventory tracking system, how to manage it within what the state is looking for on that. So we move on to page 11. Then it talks about when you're negotiating sales that you can give a sample to a retail facility, but you must track that sample, where it went, and if it was returned for whatever reason, how it was disposed of for that. 306-445 says production of marijuana concentrate prohibited. So it simply says if you don't have a product manufacturing license, you cannot produce marijuana concentrate, right? A cultivation facility doesn't give you the right to produce concentrate unless you have a concentrate license for that. All right, but if that's the case, once again, it has to be a separate licensed premise away from each other for that. And a sign that clearly identifies the room as a marijuana concentrate production area and warns unauthorized persons to stay out. So it gives some breakdown. Once again, if these are things that you intend to do, I fully suggest printing out the regs, reading it line by line, highlighting it, getting educated, and most importantly, offering public comment on that. So then we move on to page 12. Page 12 talks about standards for cultivation and preparation, must have a certified scale, required laboratory testing. The testing, the marijuana cultivation facility must or shall collect a random homogeneous sample for testing by segregating harvested marijuana into batches of individual strains of bud and flower, then selecting a random sample from each batch in an amount required by the testing facility. They then must prepare an affidavit showing that each sample has been randomly selected for testing, provide the affidavit to the testing facility, maintain a copy under business record, transport the marijuana, ta-da. So in the meantime, during testing, that batch cannot be sold, it cannot be used, it must be segregated until the testing comes back and you can move forward with being able to process that. So that's going to be a turn time question for cultivation facilities in their operation plan, is how quickly can a testing facility get you back their testing results? If you are, for example, in a rural area and you have to fly a sample to a testing facility to get your test back, how quickly will that be a turn time? Is that a 24, 48 hour, a week? I don't know. And then that has to be included in your sales so you can project your income a little bit better with that. Also the question, will that sample need to be wet? Will it need to be dry? Does it matter? And how will that impact harvesting and things like that? During this period of segregation, it says the batch must be maintained in a secure, cool, and dry location. Right? To prevent the marijuana from becoming contaminated or losing its efficacy. Fair enough. Moves on to a limited marijuana cultivation license may contract with a cultivation broker to arrange the laboratory testing. And then they go on to promotional samples. So promotional samples is 460. And 460 is a little bit confusing. 460 is on the page of the bottom of page 13, and it talks about a marijuana cultivation facility may provide a free sample of marijuana to a retail marijuana store only if packaged in a sample jar containing no more than 3.5 grams of marijuana and protected by a plastic or metal mesh screen to allow customers to smell the product before purchase. So I'm confused. Are we talking about a business transaction between a retail and a cultivation store? Or are we talking about customers smelling the product before purchase? That sentence is very confusing about that. Does that mean the cultivation facility creates packaging that allows the customer to smell the product? Or is the customer in this considered the retail store? I'm confused. So then it goes on to talk about what happens with the retail marijuana store receives the sample, may not sell the sample to a customer, and shall either return it or destroy it and document the destruction of it. That being said, though, if you turn to the next page, page 14 under BA says that a marijuana cultivation facility may provide a free sample of marijuana to a marijuana product manufacturing facility as follows. A sample provided for the purpose of negotiating a sale may be no more than 2 grams. So 2 grams to the production facility, but 3.5 grams to the retail store. Okay. And then a marijuana cultivation facility may not provide any one licensed marijuana product manufacturing facility with more than 4 grams of marijuana per month free of charge for the purpose of negotiating a sale. This is unrealistic. What if you have 10 different strains? 10 strains. Even at 1 gram a piece, you're still way, way, way over that limit. And your strains are going to determine whether or not your product manufacturing facility or your retail establishment wants to do business with that. So that limit is really tiny and really unrealistic for even operations that are small operations. It's still an unrealistic limit for that. All right, so then we move on to 465. 465 talks about random sampling, and frankly, I'm not very happy with the particular line in here that the marijuana cultivation facility shall bear all cost of testing under this subsection. So here it says that basically if the MCB says, you know what, we want to come in and we want to test your soil or your water or screen for pesticides or chemical residue, unsafe metals, or used for any laboratory testing, soil amendments, growing media, all that stuff. If they want to come in and they want to test that, that's at the expense of you, the business owner. Why? Now, if there's something in question, something that's a compliance issue or something of that nature, but a random situation where they say, randomly, I'm going to cost your business upwards of possibly $10,000 to test everything and you have to pay for it. That's government oversight. That's not necessary. And if they're going to do it, the fees, the licensing, the budget, that should cover it, not the business owner. It's going to be an unnecessary expense that the business owner is going to have to try to come up with the cash to afford testing if they're randomly selected for no other reason than just it being random for that. Right? It's not fair. So that needs to change. Moves on to the director will identify the testing facility to perform the testing, and of course they shall cooperate to provide that. So we move on to 470, which is on page 15. Talks about packaging of marijuana. Packaging of marijuana talks about that it may not be, or for packaged for sale for bud or flower, to a retail marijuana store, either in a package not exceeding 1 ounce for retail to consumers without additional handling by the retail marijuana store, except to add the retail marijuana store's own identifying logo or license number, or in a wholesale package not exceeding 5 pounds for repackaging by the marijuana or the retail marijuana store, or to a marijuana product manufacturing facility in a wholesale package not exceeding 5 pounds, consisting of a single strain or a mixture of strains as identified on the label. So it goes on, it talks about the Poison Prevention Packaging Act, gives a little bit more information, and then it gives some more information about what they expect of the packaging. So the packaging must protect the product from contamination and must not impart any toxic or damaging substance to the marijuana. 2, be 4 milliliters or greater thickness plastic, heat sealed, with no easy open corner, dimple, or flap. Marijuana product in liquid form may also be sealed using a metal crown. 3, be opaque so that the product cannot be seen without opening the package and material. I have a problem with this one, particularly when it comes to bud and flower. Edibles I get. I have a 2-year-old son, and my son sees a cookie and that's a problem. He sees a brownie and no, this is mommy's brownie, this is not your brownie. I get edibles in an opaque packaging. But when it comes to bud and flower, they're just not going to pick up the bud and flower and stick in their mouth. They're not going to be so excited about it. That being said, the consumer needs to see that what they're ordering is what they're getting. That the stuff in the package is quality, it's good for them, they see it, they know that this is what they want. That needs to be at least clear. So I feel like there needs to be some changes on that. A liquor bottle is clear. There's liquor right in that. I see it. I see liquor in that liquor bottle. I feel with bud and flower in specific that there shouldn't be a opaque packaging requirement. For edibles, concentrates, cookies, brownies, I get that. Suckers, absolutely, just because we're trying to protect the kids. I get that. But bud and flower, it's just not the same protection level, in my opinion. Okay. Talks about each package prepared in compliance with this section must be identified by a tracking tag or label. Oh, back up a little bit. It says, number 4 there, be resealable to child-proof standards if the marijuana package contains multiple servings or is intended for more than a single use. So this is going to be something where people like JKD Packaging really have put together the research and determine what's a good packaging product for something that brings it up to child-proof standards in that case. I hate the word child-proof. Nothing is child-proof. I have a 2-year-old. Nothing is child-proof. But child-resistant is probably a much more reasonable word to use there. All right, so then it moves on to section D there. A marijuana cultivation facility shall prepare marijuana for transport or transfer to another marijuana establishment by 1, placing marijuana packaged in compliance within a sealed, tamper-evident shipping container. Okay. 2, affixing a label. 3, generating a transport manifest. So that's your basic for transport on that. The secured, sealed, tamper-evident shipping container, again, okay, I guess. Just one extra expense that is going to be needed. Bottom of page 16, 475. 306475 talks about the labeling of marijuana. This is really interesting. This is the kind of situation that's going to require labels that like wrap around the entire product because they're so long. But here's what they need to be disclosed in writing. 1, each soil amendment, fertilizer, and other crop production aid applied to the growing medium or marijuana plant included in the batch. And 2, the name of the licensed marijuana testing facility that performed any required laboratory testing and the results of each required laboratory testing. B, the marijuana cultivation facility may not label marijuana as organic. So the O word, sorry guys, we can't use it. Even us, who we grow organically, you know, or we intend to grow organically, that's our plan, is organic. But sorry, you can't promote organically. There's no way to confirm that at this point in time because the word organic is based on USDA and FDA kinds of things. And so there's no way to run a federally illegal substance through those testing facilities. Therefore, you could use words like all natural, pesticide free, those kinds of things in your marketing, but the words organic, not happening. All right, they shall affix a label containing the following information. So again, this is where it gets longer. So we add to what we had before, the name and license number of the marijuana cultivation facility where the marijuana was grown, the harvest batch number assigned to the marijuana in the package, the net weight of the marijuana in the package, not including the weight of the shipping container, using a standard of measure compatible with the inventory tracking system. A complete list of all pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides used in cultivation of the marijuana. If a marijuana testing facility transport wholesale marijuana to another marijuana establishment for sale at retail or for use in manufacturing a marijuana product, then a label must be affixed to the shipping container showing that a licensed marijuana testing facility has tested each harvest batch in the shipment as provided. So the label for the test results must include 1, a cannabinoid potency profile, expressed as a range of percentages, a statement listing any of the following contaminants for which the product was tested. A, molds, mildew, and filth. B, microbials. C, herbs, pesticides, and fungicides. And D, harmful chemicals. Right? If, this is an interesting one here, if a marijuana cultivation facility ships wholesale from a harvest batch that has not been tested for each contaminant listed, that I just listed, the label for that batch must include a statement identifying each contaminant for which that harvest batch was not tested. So in addition to saying, hey, it's been tested for this, we also have a sentence that says it has not been tested for this. Okay. The thought here from the MCB is, well, the consumer can choose whether or not they want to take that risk. The retail facility gets to choose whether or not they want to, or not the cultivation facility gets to choose whether or not they want to spend the extra money to delineate themselves from people who don't test for all 4 of those things. Right? Then we move on to 480, marijuana tax to be paid. We talked about this earlier. The problem here is that you, as a new business owner, may have cash flow concerns. And if you have to pay your tax in advance to selling the product, this just it's not going to work. It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for for everybody. It's going to be a problem. So that needs to change. Now we move on to page 19, which is our last page. It does, however, say in that tax, individuals must support monthly reports to the Department of Revenue and pay the excise tax. Keep those in your records. Oh, here we go. When a marijuana cultivation facility, including a cultivation broker facility, sells or distributes any marijuana to a retail marijuana store or a marijuana product manufacturing facility, the marijuana cultivation facility or broker must provide verification of tax payment to the purchaser. There is the problem, is that they must provide tax payment verification to the purchaser before they've purchased it. No. Not okay with that. Okay, so that covers Article 4. Good, we kept it relatively short today. Article 4, cultivation facility. There's a few things in there that are going to make or break things, that are really going to make it hard for some people to get into the industry. For the most part, though, it's relatively standard. Weigh in, though, if you've got some ideas about how things need to change, or you want to open the discussion regarding public comment. Please put it down there in the comments. Let's have a discussion about this. Once again, you can agree with me or not agree with me. I don't care either way, but this is all about kind of discussing these things and being a part of this process. This process is monumental. Right here, 4 months from now, the regs are done. 4 months. In hindsight, in December, I was thinking, man, this is going to take so long. I can't believe this. But now we're 4 months away and so much work has left to be done. So that being said, all right, until next time, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.